Alright, so just recently I have picked up quite a few boxes of this Warcradle Scenics terrain, and it's the pre-painted, or the pre-painted MDF, and I'm going to go ahead and put together this Ramshackle residence and see how it turns out. Well, hopefully it looks good. As with most kits, it comes off of the sprues very easily. So I do have the instructions up, and I'm going to start giving it a shot here. The instructions you can get just off of the Warcradle Scenics page, and it seems to be fairly easy to put this stuff together. I mean, just like the other kit that I was working on, it's literally, you know, you just tongue and groove here. You just stick it together and just kind of slap some glue on there. Now, as you can see, though, you've got each of the sheets, and they have their own color. This sheet here is the outer walls, the front wall, the doorway, obviously, with these being the various little wood bits that go on the outside and the inside, and the floor and whatnot, and down to including, if I can get it off of here without destroying anything, the roof, which is on the back here. Now these are the roof tiles, and I really like how they're a different color here than everything else. I like the fact that this stuff is pre-colored. Pretty much you can throw it together, put it on the game table, and you're done. Easy peasy. Now, one thing I will say, though, I feel like there's kind of a lost opportunity here, because if you look at this first page, or this first sheet here, there's actually quite a bit of space that's empty that, I mean, honestly, Warcradle could have put another couple of pieces in here, maybe some scatter terrain, even some like wooden planks, or stone pieces or something. You could have utilized this space a little bit better than just having this one big blank sheet. Now, that being said, what I might do is I might keep some of these pre-painted sheets and just snip pieces off and use them as scatter. You can use it as stone or lumber or whatnot. But there are a lot of I'm not going to say a whole lot, but there are a few pages that have some obvious wasted space here, where opportunity could be had. We could have barrels and or crates or anything in these spaces that makes sense. That's just observation. Otherwise, it really does look good. Alright, so I'm going to put this wall together just to kind of give you a demonstration on how this works. And I've done this before on the Art of War cyberpunk terrain, but I figure it can't hurt to do it again. So what we got here, just put a dab in each place, and then and make sure you line this up, because this piece goes on here, right? So what you want to do is put your PVA glue on the inner edge right here. You don't need a crap ton, just enough to create a bond. So just kind of stick that together. Now for these, because there's no real guide, the easiest way to get this done is to just kind of push on the corner here. That way you can line it up and get it straight, because you have flat area to flat area. Now, of course, this means I'm going to be holding this for a few minutes, so I'm going to have to edit some of this video off as I sit here. Or actually, let's do this the smart way. There we go. I'll line it up like that. Make sure that both sides are on. Make sure everything's together, and give it a good push. And we're going to let that, we're going to let that dry, and we'll get back to it. Alright, so obviously with this building, I'm not going to be able to use the old rubber band trick where you stick a rubber band on the around the building to line it up and get it all straight. So what we're going to have to rely on instead is the PVA glue. And I apparently need to unclog my nozzle. So I'm going to go back. First off, I'm going to make sure I got plenty of glue, and then I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to scrape some of this stuff off and make it look all pretty. So now I got this one on here. It's still not fully dry, but it's getting there. And once again, I'm just going to kind of push. I'll see, not fully dry. My fault. You get to watch me bumble through this. So let's try this again. Bumble through this properly. Alright. Maybe we'll edit that glue part out because that was way too close to the camera. So that's the only problem I have with some of this MDF stuff, is trying to get it straight is kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. So you gotta kind of wing it and eyeball it and then adjust it as it needs to be adjusted. Like that right there. Right, so we gotta kind of make sure it lines up. Same thing with this one. Making sure it lines up. Just kind of wipe the. What I'm going to do here is use a little bit of water to kind of smush this glue around, and I did this with my Cyberpunk one as well. And then I'll kind of get that glue where it needs to go to dry and reinforce everything. All right, so once again, we're actually going to give this enough time, an actual time to dry this time. Alright, one thing to note, and this is something that you will learn as you put the kit together, there are pieces here that come from different sprues that go on one set. So it's not one particular sprue that goes on each. Now, as a for instance, right, here is the this is the trim for the bottom windows. If I can move this stuff here without getting it out of order, one thing I do is I always take stuff off of the sprue and I lay it out in order as I'm going to need it. And I take each little piece and I put it in line as the instructions say, right? So this is going to be a set of stairs, and this came from 3 different sprues, right? The B, the E, and the D. Okay, so this little guy here is actually the bottom of the staircase, and it actually slots into this piece here, right? And make sure that when you're doing this, I don't have any glue on this yet, but if you can see here, the little wood engravings go up on this. Now this side of the staircase, this particular side here, is actually going to go into this large wall, and it actually, you can see the staircase kind of going upward from there. So I'm going to start putting this together here in just a second. I just want to make sure I don't jostle this wall again and knock it apart. Now that is one thing, while I'm thinking about it, that is one thing here. The walls, as you're putting them together, they are a little bit frail when they're like this. When it's 4 walls, like my Cyberpunk stuff that I just put together from Art of War, it's easier to throw a little bit of extra glue in there and just use a brush to spread it out, or a finger, or a random piece of the leftover sprue or whatnot. But when it's just a 3 wall like this wall here is going to be floating, okay, because this is a ramshackle, busted old house. All right, So this piece here is going to be floating. So these walls, until I can reinforce them a little bit better, are going to be a little bit fragile. That's why I'm waiting for the glue to dry before I do anything too drastic here. So I'm going to move on to the staircase here in just a second. All right. So I'm going to start putting the stairs together little by little, and I'm going to do this in stages because I don't want to get too ahead of myself and kind of muck things up here. Whoa! I did clear out the nozzle of my glue as well, so I don't need to get that much on there. So this guy, of course, as you saw before, you just kind of cram that thing in there, right? And then with this particular piece, okay, this, you got to be careful. This piece here is going to go outward because this goes into the wall while this piece gets slotted in right here, right? Just make sure you pay attention to the instructions. This piece here that doesn't have a tooth on it is going to face towards the stairs. So let's get that in there. This guy kind of slots into here, right? And then this side goes in the wall. So obviously this is the other end. Pardonnez-moi. Right here, I believe. Yeah, so it's going to go somewhat kind of like that. All right, so I've got that glue drying. So what I'm going to do, and you got to make sure that you're doing this right. Make sure you line everything up. I've got the two pieces of the stairwell here, right? And I'm going to stick the stairs into one side, and then I'll move on to lining it up to the other side. All right, so one by one, in order, piece by piece. And make sure you take it slow. Don't try and force anything in there. If something won't go, you got to kind of work it in there a little bit better. Just kind of slow it down. But so far, each of these seems to go in fairly well. Obviously, I'm not paying too much attention to the orientation just yet because I'm not trying to line it up into the other side. I find that with stairs, and this will be the deciding factor here. I've found that trying to put stairs together ultimately becomes kind of a test to a testament to how much patience that you have, because trying to get the other side on here is going to be a pain in the butt. All right, so this guy goes here into the little wall piece. So first off, I'm going to do the stairs. All right, now when you're doing this piece, you got to make sure that you line everything up, work slowly. Don't cram the pieces all the way in at first, because you're going to have to line it up all the way up the staircase. So if you can see here, I'm not actually pushing everything into the pegs into the holes here until I get everything in, and that was beautiful. That was beautiful. You know what? This I can honestly say that was probably the easiest staircase I put together for a terrain, for any kind of terrain. All right, and then this, as you can see, goes here. So we're gonna throw one there. I'm gonna throw a little bit on here, and maybe a little too much, but that'll be all right. We'll figure it out, because we only need a little bit in the center here, like this, like that. Okay. Now it would have been nice, and this is just kind of a nitpicky thing for me, if they had put a peg here where this thing lines up, instead of just relying on glue right here in the corner, because what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to sit and let that dry together. That's gonna take a few minutes here, so I'm going to let that dry and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the stairs drying here, and I think what I'm going to do is very carefully here, I'm trying not to put any pressure on the corners of this wall because it feels very fragile. I kind of feel like this is sort of like this is a point here that they should have addressed, is maybe finding a way to reinforce these walls a little bit. Oh, okay, so this spot right here is going to be one of the spots where the glue goes for the staircase, so I'm going to get that out of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, too wet, darn it, a damp, not a wet brush, but a damp brush, and kind of brush some of this PVA glue into the corner and try and reinforce this a little bit and maybe hopefully make it stay up a little better. But one thing I am going to do is I'm going to take an old brush and I'm going to lift these corners up a little bit because I don't want it to get glued to the table because I put a little bit too much water on my brush there when I started. So that takes care of at least a little bit of it. So I still have to wait for this to dry so I can stick these two pieces on and the outer wooden frames here, which I must say is a good addition for this. They're having the little accoutrements, the wooden frames and whatnot, kind of make it pop. So I'm going to do that here in just a moment. We're going to let that dry. Alright, now that this is fairly sturdy, I'm going to attempt to put this wall on first. Obviously, oh, see, glue does not go there. Glue does not go there, but I did it anyway because I'm just that excited. Okay, so put this guy in here. Pop it right in. Okay, now since this goes right over the top, what I am going to do is put just a little bit here, a little bit there, and then go right across here. Now also, since this is going to sit flat against here, I'm also going to throw some glue on the side here. Okay, and together she goes. Alright, now once again, I'm just kind of pushing on the side here to make sure it lines up fairly well. Now I might have to do some adjustments later because it looks like, if I'm reading this right, there is a floor that goes on top here. Now the next step is going to be putting, oops, straighten that back out here. Okay, the next step is going to be putting this guy, oops, right here. There's a couple little pegs for this right there. You just kind of slide it in, allegedly. So we'll see how that works out. So that's going to be our next step. And I figured while I'm waiting, I will go ahead and put these two window frames up. Now obviously this one goes on the big window, and this one goes over here on this small window right here. You can see that better if I kind of lift it up carefully. So I'm going to try and do this without destroying that wall. Now this little break here goes down. Not like it matters too much, but I mean gravity, so stands to reason. So I'm just kind of putting just a little bit of glue on here. It might slop over just a little bit, but anything that goes over that might be seen, we'll just hit that with a damp brush and call it good. Alright, so I'm going to try as best I can while holding this up to line up this window frame. Okay, now I'm going to hold it in place there with one finger and grab my brush and kind of dry it off just a little bit here so it's not too wet, and go right across here like that. Make sure I hang on to that with my finger here. Okay, and that should dry up pretty good. And the same thing for this little guy. Now, considering I've got 4 giant boxes of this terrain, this is going to be quite the ongoing project. Now this one doesn't really have any set way to go, so I'm just going to slide it up there, line it up, and once again take my brush, wick some of that water off of there, and just go around it like this. Make sure that I got it as lined up as I can here. There we go. Alright, now we're just waiting for all this to dry. And then we should be able to, actually I should be able to just go ahead and stick this in here. Whoop, see, look at that. Just went and crammed it on there. So this, oh, and I grabbed the wrong, see, I grabbed the wrong spot and I just completely flubbed it. That happens, it happens. So what we're going to do is just put a little more glue again. I'm going to put some glue underneath here so it's not going to be seen. Alright, once again, we have to wait for this to dry because I flubbed it. Okay, cram this back in here. Okay. Alright, let's try this again. Hopefully not break anything this time. Okay, so I'm just gonna once again let that dry up again. Okay. You know what? No, we're not going to let that dry because I might need to adjust it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to throw it on there and see what happens. Obviously, this piece here is going to be resting against the wall, so I'm going to take this and just throw a little bit of glue on there. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can do this without destroying anything. Yeah, this piece right here is kind of fiddly. That's alright though, because she fits like a charm. Okay, so I'm going to make sure to push that where it goes and then line up the stairs so they look at least vaguely stairish. And then it looks like, yeah, see, that's coming apart. Okay, so we're gonna, okay, so I'm gonna hold this here for just a moment while it dries. And I might have to do something. There is kind of a gap here, and I think that comes from the wall not being lined up properly. So I'll figure something out for that. Maybe I'll just put a little bit of wood in there or something. We'll figure that part out. But I just want to make sure that this piece is glued on there correctly, at least. Where there is a will and a rubber band, there is a way. So I did find a way to rubber band this together to help it dry a little bit. I did end up having to kind of readjust the wall a little bit, which doesn't seem to have hurt anything so far. So anyway, we're going to move on to the next piece, which is going to be this guy. All right, and then these little slats here go here. Okay, this step by far, and yes, I did end up smoothing them out anyway. I had kind of an OCD moment, but this is by far kind of the easiest step. And as you can see, I'm not going to drop it fully in there because it's still, the glue is still drying, but this piece goes on here, right there. So that is the second floor. Alright, so I've put two more pieces together, and these obviously are just simple pieces that slat together. This one is kind of still a pain in the butt a little bit because it's still trying to dry, but I'm trying to keep these two edges here. I'm sorry, I got out of camera here. I'm trying to keep these two edges here lined up properly. Hopefully they'll stay. So there's that piece, and I'm going to be moving on. This is this particular piece is like it looks like a balcony type setup. No, this I guess these are the supports for the next level, but these are going to go here on the top as I get things together. Okay, so this is how this works. These two little pieces here go on the outer side, and keep in mind when you're gluing them. Alright, for these, if you look, you can see where there are little cut marks between the top and the bottom, whereas on the back it's just one long. So this is going to go on the outside here. Now this next piece is it's a little weird because this goes here in the corner and then this slides in. So I'm going to go ahead and record this piece because this piece here is already fallen apart on me again. So hopefully I can refrain from any explicatives here as I try and get this together properly. Alright, I'm going to take this piece, and this slides over here in the corner. Okay, and then this. Piece here. A little too much glue. That'll be alright. I have my handy brush. Okay, so the way this goes is this guy is supposed to just slide right in there. Oh, I cannot forget these little side pieces here. So I guess while I'm here, I might as well go ahead and put them on. Since I'm already making a huge glue mess, might as well keep contributing to said glue mess. Alright, so I'm going to line up here on the sides. Line it up properly. Okay. And then what goes on here is there is, let's see. Aha, I see. Okay. Okay. So one of these pieces here is supposed to slot into, which piece though? I see. Okay, so this piece is supposed to line up at top. That piece is supposed to line up at the top. This piece is supposed to line up. And it looks like there we go. That is it. That is how it goes. Alright. So now we have a way forward. The thing is, I think I may have something, because it actually says there should be 4 holes here. Huh, but there are not. There's only 2. Like that. So, per the instructions, it's supposed to go like this. But there's supposed to be a hole here and here. So, what we'll just do is we will make do. Since there are only 2 holes here, just stick that there and glue the rest. Easy enough. And then we take, once again, oh, I keep bumping the microphone. We'll see how that sounds. This is my first time using this camera setup. Ah! There we go. Alright. So we're going to stick it down like that since there are not 2 more holes on there. See, there's nothing on the bottom either that would indicate that there should be 2 holes in there. Okay, so the next piece here is the front and the door. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. This is the side that goes by the balcony. This is the side and the door. Now, it looks like the door is actually functional. And make sure, once again, this is the inside. This here is the outside. You gotta make sure you get the right side here. You can actually, there's a texture, which I think is really cool. It's not just color on this one, it's actually texture. So it does kind of feel like plaster, almost. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. So the door actually goes in this way. So what we're gonna do here, I'll just, whoop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in one piece first. Okay, so that's the first piece. That's the top here. Now what happens is the door actually goes in here like this, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to take this secondary piece and it just kind of slides here on the bottom. That makes this door workable, which is amazing. It's all these little details that I enjoy the most. Now you could, if you wanted to, you could glue it. Me, I am not going to glue it because I like those little details like that. That's just me. Okay, so here we go. I need to attach these 4 pieces together. Here's piece number 4 there. So the way it works out is these 2, and then this one, and that one here goes on the end. So I'm going to do this 2 sides at a time, I think. I'll start off with this one. And then I'm going to do the other one, and then I will put the 2 of them together after. Alright, so that's that side. This side, on the other hand, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to keep it up, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. And of course, since this side here, if you can see, this side is curved slightly. So there's actually not a whole lot of glue area to use. Okay, so I've kind of jumped ahead here. I put together, of course, I put together the rest of the column here that holds up the balcony. I put this, now this particular, the top walls here, they were fiddly, very, very fiddly. It was kind of a nightmare trying to line it all up and then get it on here properly. But I mean, it's supposed to be ramshackle anyway, so you know, why not? But I also ended up, you can see it in this corner here, taking a piece of the used sprue and making like a little timber in the corner there to try and reinforce that corner. So hopefully that will help that from becoming too, wiggly. And then what we've got here is the roof, or part of the roof, right? And it's supposed to go with the timber side in, apparently, per the instructions. This piece, where it has all the wood marks, goes inside instead of outside. I'm not sure why that is, but, we'll see. But it's actually kind of hard on the instructions at first to tell which way this goes, because as you can see, this side has 2 holes, this side has 1. But apparently there is like a small weather vane looking thing. It's like another fin piece that sticks out of the top here, and that actually goes on this side with the full trestle. Alright, so this is the finished product. This has definitely been a lesson in keeping my temper, because some of the pieces here were really, really hard to put together. Emphasis on this top piece here. So the way it works out is the roof comes off, so you have a playable surface in here, and then this piece also comes off so you can get into the bottom. And let me just turn this around so you can see the other side here. And we'll put the roof on here. And that's how it looks. Turns out pretty good. I think it looks great. It's just the assembly that kind of sucks a little bit. But, yeah. Oh, and you get a couple of other little accessories like some ladders. There is a couple of pieces of scatter terrain. Nothing, nothing too crazy. Just a couple of pieces of plaster, windows, boards, things like that. So as an additional aside here, I think that I'm going to go back in and put some glue on the side here, because these little slats don't have anything holding them up besides this glue point here. And then I may also add some scrap pieces of the MDF on the sides here to next to this little wooden piece on this top floor. I may do that as well, just to kind of give it some stability, I suppose. So the way this is supposed to go is, I'm guessing the ladder, or one of the ladders, is supposed to lead up to here. So I think that in order to like, especially here, these are on here just with this one little glue point and that one little piece of MDF. So I kind of feel like this is sort of a design flaw for this building. I feel like there should have been a little more support here, but I don't know. I'm going to figure out a way to do it. I mean, because I've got plenty of excess MDF and little pieces like as thin as this here that I can just stick a piece here, but I feel like I shouldn't have to do that. I feel like it should have been designed a little bit better, a little more sturdy. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this stuff is amazing looking, and it fits together quite well. And it's going to look good once I start up a Mordheim table. And I think that this stuff will be really nice. But again, I mean, just because I know how things get damaged on the table, things get dropped, things get moved around, it's definitely going to need something a little extra on these little places here where there's only one piece of support. I mean, the glue seems to be holding pretty fine after curing overnight, so we'll see. So some final thoughts. So far, I've only put together one of the Warcradle buildings that I got. I've got a stack sitting here right next to me of several of their sets. So hopefully the other buildings will be maybe a little easier to put together. I'll tell you what, the details are amazing. You know, the outside accoutrements that you put on the plaster on these buildings are a really nice touch, because it adds that extra bit of depth instead of it just being a carving into, you know, something burned into the wood itself. You have that extra layer that comes on top, and honestly, I think that adds a lot of flavor to the building itself and to the build. The only thing that I've had a problem with so far, like I said, is the roof was kind of a bit of a pain to put together, because of the fact that there's only that one little piece that you got to balance. So I had to sort of hang it up on my desk to get it to work right. So other than that, the build was actually pretty smooth. Putting together the walls, I had to balance them a little bit and kind of like tinker with them, but that's neither here nor there. That's not too bad. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I plan on doing more build videos for the Warcradle scenery. Like I said, I've got 4 large boxes of scenery. I've got the Gloomberg. I've got the Dunsmith, which is kind of like a Call of Cthulhu. The Gloomberg is kind of like is a fantasy set of buildings. And I've got the Augusta set, which is like an industrial modern. And the last one I have, and I had to get it, is Tillinghast Manor, which is a giant manor house that can be used for either Gloomberg or for Dunsmith. And in my opinion, it's part of the Dunsmith set, but I think it would look pretty good on a D&D table as well. So I'm not sure which I'm going to put together next, but we'll see. Thank you for watching.